All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so basically what I would just like to do is kind of walk you through the basics of the product, go through the overall hierarchy of how it's set up, and then of course at any time if you have any questions, feel free to jump in.
I do have one qualifying question. Carrie, are there any areas that are particularly difficult in terms of scheduling activities, or are there some holes in your current lineup that you'd like to fill? Pain points, that kind of thing?
You know, Brian, do not have a really 100% understanding from ground level since I've been with the company for about 3 months, but I do know that I would be very interested in seeing how the guests could have a combined itinerary that would be between spa and the activity schedule, which is not possible right now. So I guess that's probably my
Oh, I'm sorry, Carrie, this is Kristen. That is actually the way we are currently operating. We do have a fully integrated solution. It's very cumbersome and somewhat, just the performance of the system is a little bit lacking, in my opinion. But we do currently today have a full itinerary where activities and spa are all presented to the guest on a single itinerary. But
so
one of the areas
you're utilizing. Okay, then I must have misinformation. In fact, when I was a guest, I kept asking about, can I get them both on the same thing? And so I didn't realize that you're actually using the cumbersome system now.
Yeah, to say the least. And if that wasn't your experience, there may be some breakdown. But, the other advantage to moving forward with something like this is that, those are presented in kind of a paper format. So it's not really, as far as moving forward, I'd like to see this as being something that we can, access digitally. And mobily and more, accessibly than what we're doing today too.
And Kristen, what systems would you see this solution replacing?
In this case here, this would replace, in my mind, what we're using today for Visual One activities.
Okay.
So we have an activities module where we book anything I can think of, Jeep tours, on-site dining, off-site dining, any of the activities, the watercolor classes, any kind of classes or events that happen on property today are done through that V1 activities module. And the activities module is actually a kind of a modified spa. So it's a second instance of V1 Spa, which is also what we use for booking spa treatments for our guests. So I see this replacing the activities module in addition to the spa module.
Great. Thank you.
Now there's also potential for, there's questions around dining and golf too, but.
Oh, right, exactly. So I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to. So in that, into the future, in terms of what we would also incorporate in here, and one of the thoughts we had, well, it seems like a necessary thing for Enchantment, would be to provide a way to have access to Jonas's tea time availability in a way that we could present to Enchantment guests. Such that they could book their own tea times. So most certainly that would be a factor as well.
Great.
Any other questions?
No, I think I'm good for now. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and run you through some of the basics, and then you can, if you have any questions along the way, just let me know. So what you're looking at here is what we call our staff portal, and you basically have two major areas of the product. You have our staff portal, and then you have our guest portal. Our guest portal would be what would be on your website and allow your users to book reservations on their own through that guest portal. Whereas the staff portal would be what your internal staff uses. Inside of the staff portal, you have two areas of that. You have your operations area, which is your day-to-day functions and all of that, where your reservations are seen and shown. And then you have your admin area, which is where you do all the setup. So where we'll be focusing our time right now, at least, will be in the staff portal in the operations area. In this operations area, you have, if you look across the top of the screen up here, you have several areas you can go to. You have your guests area, which is basically your what we're calling Guest Central. It's where you can get all the information about a guest. The beauty of it is if it's tied into your property management system, you can see room information, you can see everything, and really truly create that single guest itinerary. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about that here shortly. You have your call center, which is used for your reservationists or your concierge staff who don't necessarily know the ins and outs of a particular outlet. They're just booking. They might search for, I want a massage on Tuesday, and you'll do a search and it'll give you a list of results. You'll select it, and all the back end business rules will determine where that goes. You have your retail area, which is your point of sale, which we'll get into shortly. Your wait list, pretty self-explanatory. Your reservations, which is a list of your reservations that are in the system, and we'll go through that. And then your arrivals, or what we call the front desk screen. And what that's used for is your cashier that's behind the counter that's checking people in when they arrive, gives them a list of everything that's coming in the door that day, and then they can modify them, check them in. They can, you know, kind of monitor what's going on in the business unit at that given day and time. That's what the arrivals is. But where we'll really start here is scheduling, and this is our main scheduling area, what you've probably heard called the tape chart. We call it a scheduler. Inside of this area, you have kind of your common areas here. Across the top, you have your business unit. So right now, I can see that I am in the spa business unit. The beauty of this system is that it's all set up the same way, no matter what you're booking, whether you're booking dining, golf, spa, anything else, it's all set up exactly the same way on the back end. So if you have, you know, a manager who's out sick for a week, and you have you know, your tennis manager's out sick for a week, your golf manager might be able to come over and help set up some products if it needs to be. It's all completely the same, and it looks the same and feels the same no matter where you are. So right now we're in our spa. Across the top here, these are your individual resources. So what we've set up is that we have a resource or a provider or technician named Alessandra, Binya P, Heidi B, Judy N, Megan S, and then we have a couple ghost ones. So those are the individual resources. Now those resources are anything that you can book in the system. So if I were to switch over to boating, for example, you can see across the top, well, I don't have any boats set up. I'll open up another one and show you that here in just a moment. I apologize. I'll go over to tennis, though. You can see I've got tennis courts. So here's court 1, court 2, and court 3. I could change my resource type from tennis courts to tennis professionals. So now I'm seeing the individual professionals. In the spa, you have your providers, but then you might also have your rooms. Because when you book a reservation, not only are you booking a person, but you're also booking the room that that person will perform the service in. So you have all of those different areas. And I'm sure a lot of these things are familiar to you from other systems. Now, the key thing with this product that we focus on two things: the guest experience, the guest information, and speed. I worked at a company called Open Course Solutions for 13 years. We were in this same market, although it's not as in-depth. It took about 3 minutes to book a reservation. In our system, when we did a demo and compared the two, it took 15 seconds from start to finish. So you can see the speed. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and just kind of walk you through booking some reservations really quickly so you get an idea for that speed. So the first thing you're going to do always is you're going to search for a guest. Now you can either do a search, you can click new guest, but normally you want to start with a search. And then in our system, what you can do is in almost every system I've ever seen, in fact, in every system I've ever seen, you select one guest at a time. So I'm calling up to book for my family. I have to do a search. I have to find one family member, book them, go back and search for the next family member, book them. We didn't take that approach at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tag my entire family, me, my wife, and my daughter, and I'm going to add all tagged. So now I have 3 guests over here on the left that are tagged. From there, I can book them either as a group or I can book them one at a time. So let's just say I want to book just my wife for a reservation. I'll just uncheck Ben and I'll uncheck Riley. And now I can start booking for Ashley. And in booking, I have multiple ways that this can be accomplished. The basic way, I can just click on 9 a.m. It will give me a list of all the services that particular provider. I clicked Alessandra, so it'll give me a list of all the services that Alessandra can perform. I can click on deep tissue massage. I can click on 60 minutes. This is what we call a guest form or a custom form that the site has decided to populate. And you can set these up a million different ways to collect any type of information about a guest or medical waivers. You can have them sign waivers. You can do all sorts of things. But in this case, it's basically for the booker to confirm that they have read the cancellation policy to the guest. I'll say continue. And I've just booked that reservation. Took me 2 clicks. Now, if I want to book for the next person in the group, I can select Ben, and I can even go to a different revenue center. So now I could jump over to tennis. And I can say, okay, well, Ashley, I see this customers column. Ashley has a reservation at 9. So on court 2, I'll go ahead and book Ben. He's going to rent a court for an hour while his wife has massage. I've just booked Ben. Now I can go to Riley. I can go over to another area if I want. So let's say recreation. Well, in this case, I'm in the recreation area. I see these, what we call classes in the system. So there's an event called the Boss Buddies. It's 180 minutes long, and I can see that it holds up to 12 people in it. And I want to book Riley into that Boss Buddies, or I could book Riley into bubble soccer. Well, Riley'd rather play bubble soccer. So I'm just going to come down and click the plus, select the rate, and I've just booked Riley into bubble soccer. So I did one search, selected 3 guests, and just booked 3 different reservations for them across 3 different revenue centers, all in less than a minute if I hadn't been talking. So you can see how easy it is to book reservations. Now, if you want to get into, there are a couple other ways you can book a reservation. So we took the approach of I'm going to select a specific provider, click a time, and see what they have available. Well, in many cases, all you know is that Ashley wants to book a pedicure. Well, if that's the case, I can come up to the top here and you have what are called these service tabs. So I can click on Mani Pedi, and you'll see that the list was made smaller. What that's now showing me is only the providers that can perform a Mani Pedi service. So now I don't have to go hunting through all the different providers to figure out who does a Mani Pedi. That's very big, especially when you have new employees that are learning the system. A lot of your advanced employees are ones that have been there for a while. That won't be as important to. But for new employees, it's really, really nice. So I can say, okay, she gets done with that one there. Go ahead and click that. These are the list of the Mani Pedis I can perform. I can say coastal pedicure, 45 minutes. Oh, and now it's actually telling me that there's something that's not set up properly, so Heidi's actually not available for that. It could be the room. I'd have to go look at the logging to determine what the message is to why that's not working. But you can see how easy that is. The third way is I have this drop down here called Pick an Experience. So Ashley may call and say, well, I want a deep tissue massage. Well, if I go over to this list and say deep tissue massage, this list also updates. So these are the only people that can perform a deep tissue massage. And then booking a reservation becomes one click. Click on 1 p.m., confirm they've read the cancellation policy, and I just booked a reservation. And it actually moved it from Megan to Alessandra because of business rules, but you can see Ashley Taylor now has a deep tissue massage booked. So booking a reservation is very, very basic, very easy to do. Once you have the reservation booked, then of course there are a number of advanced functions that you may want to perform on that reservation. Could be as simple as a note. I could just click this notes icon, type in this is a test, hit add reservation note, and you'll now see that the note turns green, telling me that there's a note on that reservation. I can also go to what we call our task menu, and this is where you get to all of the different functions you can perform to a reservation. So I can confirm or unconfirm it. I can mark it as pending, no-showed. I can cancel it. I can move it if I need to move it to another time or date. There's a couple different ways to do move. I can look at the reservation notes, which is the same as clicking that icon we just did. I can view the history of it. I can do what are called options in the system, and these are really nice. and they can be utilized multiple ways across multiple revenue centers. But they give you the option to add on items to that reservation. So if you're in golf, for example, that could be a cart. Might add, a price for the cart. If you're in, let's say you've rented a pool cabana for the day, they might offer you lunch that's brought to the pool cabana. You could attach that to the reservation. Anything you can think of that you might add on to a reservation could be done through this options menu. You could view the itinerary for Ashley Taylor, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that in the guest area, so I'll kind of skip over it here, but that gives you your full itinerary that we talked about earlier. I can check in a reservation when I'm ready to go ahead, and the guest has arrived now. I can go ahead and check it in, and I'll get to that momentarily. I can take a prepayment on a reservation. I can prevent moving the reservation. If for some reason this guest specifically wants this provider or this time, then you could prevent moving it to mark it for your staff that if this provider calls out sick that day, hey, I need to pick up the phone and call this guest before I move it. Some other functions, I can allow overlapping. I can ignore the turn time. I can say that something is requested. So I could say that Alessandra is requested, for example. And when I do that, it'll pop up a little icon showing me that Alessandra was actually requested. So they know that. In my notes area, I can even say they want a male or female. So I could say they're requesting a female. That way, if they need to do it, they won't run into that. And then you'll see a little icon will pop up for that as well. So now I have female requested. So just a lot of advanced functions you can do to the reservation once it's booked in the system. And that applies pretty much for all the different types. So if I went back over to tenant or recreation, you could see those classes that we did earlier when we booked Riley. You can now see that Bubble Soccer has 1 out of 20 guests in the class. And if I were to view the event, I could see the details about the people in the event. So I can see Riley Taylor. So very basic, very easy way to book throughout the system on the scheduler itself.
Why don't you go show how easy it is to add a new event and extend it out? I think that would be important.
Sure. So if you wanted to create your own class right here, it's exactly the same as actually booking a reservation, which is what makes it nice. So let's say I want to create a class under Beach Buddies at 1 p.m. I can just click on 1 p.m. Sorry, let me make sure. Did you set up the availability for that, Brian?
Try doing a drop down for it.
Yeah. So we'll do it. We can do it over here on the left. So I can say Boss Buddies. So let's say I want to set up the Boss Buddies class and at 1 p.m. And now I've added that class again at 1 p.m. And if this is a recurring class that you have every Monday, for example, you can actually go into the advanced functions and do replicate event. And I can even replicate it out for every Monday for however long you wanted to.
In the admin area, we had originally decided to define what this type of class is like, how many people will it hold, what resources are required, that type of thing, so that when you want to do what Ben just did, it's very easy. So the first thing you do is you create a class template that can be used over and over again.
Right.
Then in a little bit, I think I'll probably end up showing you.
So I don't understand that piece, the class template. So how would I? So if it's not in that list, but I have a whole bunch of unique classes that don't get repeated. So say it's like, I have a specialty meditation, and I have a specialty class with a vendor. I have an author's lecture, something like that. How do I actually create the new one-time classes? How cumbersome is that?
It's very basic, actually. In fact, I can walk you through it really fast while we're on the phone.
Do you have one you would like to set up now? Do you have one in mind that would be a good example?
No, just pick anything.
Okay.
Just any new event.
Okay, so let's say I'm going into my admin area here, and I'll pull up my recreation, and we'll have our let's see, activity. What's another ton of bonfire? We'll go under there. Oh, that's fine. Fire pit. Let's see. Children's programs. We'll go here. Okay, so right now you can see a list of all the different children's programs that are set up in the system. Let's say I want to have a new one. It's very simple because all I can do, I can just take one of the existing ones, like the Boss Buddies. I can hit the clone button, and then all I have to do is really fill in the name. Test class. I can set my minimum and maximum number of guests that are in the class. So in this case, let's say I can go up to 20. Of course, there are all kinds of things you can do to it. You know, we can come back to some of those, but then I can just come down here to my price and set my price. So for example, the new class, I'm going to charge $25 each. And I will say it's per person, save, and I've just set up a new class. So if I now go back into my scheduler, I can pull down my drop down. Oh, let me go back into recreation. And I will have down here, oh, did it refresh? Make sure it saved. And then I can book it just as if I would any other class now. It adds that quickly. There's my clone. I didn't save the name, forgot it, and I've just booked that class. So you can see I did all of that in a matter of, what, 20 seconds or so?
Why don't you go back and hit some of the fields that are helpful, what's in there.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. I didn't save the name when I typed test class, but it's cool.
That's okay, no problem. I got the gist. Appreciate it.
No problem. So I go back over here. Go ahead.
And then, of course, I you know, questions that I have start to evolve into the thought process of, you know, limiting the availability of this in terms of guest self-serve. You know, if we have a special event that's going on that we only want to be available to a specific group of people or attendees, you know, they're staying with us, that kind of thing. So just kind of some of the settings around, you know, how it displays on the web and who it displays to and what the capabilities are of being able to limit the availability and also obviously make it available to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, I can walk you through that really easy. So there's actually several different ways to do that. The first thing you have here is what we call availability type. And this is nice because you can have live availability or request only. So if you set something to request only, it will show up on your website. However, when they go to put it in their cart, they're not actually booking a specific date and time. What they're doing is they're creating a request for this event, and then they'll fill in the notes what date and time they want, and then that will send an email to you, and then you can call them back. So that's one way to do it. Or you could have it as live availability on the web, but you can limit when it's available, who it's available to. So right here, you see this column that says visible, sellable, and modes. I can say that this is available to retail only, the web store only, or both. So if I wanted to limit this item in one way or provide it to everyone. I can also make it available to specific customer types. So let's say this class is only for your hotel guests and you don't want your local residents to be able to book into it. I could limit it that way as well. Getting in more detail, where it gets really nice is I can actually set the price of it and then have it different prices and be limited that way as well. So in other words, if I come down here and add another attribute for it, everything is going to be the same except that this is going to be for non-guests. So I might charge them $50 a person. And I can say that this non-guest is only available in retail. It's not available on the web store. However, the $25 one is available in both. So you can limit it at the item level or all the way down at the individual attribute level to determine pretty much availability any way you decide to make it.
Great.
Does that answer your questions in that area?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, obviously as we have more specific, you know, things that we'd be looking to accomplish, you know, we could give you some examples of that. But yeah.
Okay. Kristen, is there someone on your is there someone on your website that lays out the special events or activities that you've got? I'm looking and I'm not really finding a spot where you would list special events. Is there one?
We have we do. We have 2 booklets for, are you looking just for Enchantment Resort?
Yeah, I was just looking. Yes, I'm looking there for special events.
Okay. Okay. So you can look, it's easier if you look at enchantmentresorts30.com, and that'll walk through some of the events. There's a tab there that says events.
Found it. Okay.
Yeah. That's our 30th anniversary website. So you can go through and look at, you know, Epicurean or golf or holiday, live music, wellness.
Yeah, I was just looking to set up a special event that when Ben got to the guest-facing piece of it, we might have one waiting for you.
Yeah. Well, we're can we look at the retail piece of your software, Ben?
Sure. Yep. I'll take you over there right now.
Thanks.
So let's go back into the scheduler itself, and you can go directly into retail. But while I'm at it, I'm also going to show you just checking someone in, so you can see that. So
Okay,
Ashley Taylor
great.
now walks in the door. So I will just go. Oh, let me show you Brian's favorite thing really quickly. See this yellow reservation right here? This is a reservation that is on hold. And what that means is Brian on his computer has put that date and time into his cart, but he hasn't actually checked out yet. So you can see that you won't ever have any overlapping where your current staff is trying to book a time while someone on the web is trying to book it. So that's what that yellow
that's great.
is.
Yeah, that's really great.
Okay. So let me jump into retail. So Ashley walks in the door. You want to check her in, so I'll just go to check-in reservation. Now what this is telling me is that Ashley has 2 reservations today. Do I want to check them both in at once, or do I just want to check one of them in? So in this case, I'll just say 1. And then it'll take me right over into my retail system, and I have the item, the deep tissue massage, on the check. At this point, I can discount it. I can add gratuity to it. You can see it does already have an automatic service charge on it of $36. So that's set up on the back end. We've said that there's a 20% service charge on this item. I can also add more items to the check. So if you have retail, for example, I can come here and do a search. So I will do replenishing. Do a search. There's all the items that have the word replenishing in it. Now, the easier and much easier way to do that is just to scan it. If you have a scanner, you can just scan the barcode. In this case, I did a lookup. So I'll say that I want a 24-hour moisturizer, 55 milliliter. I've added that to the check. I can say, okay, well, I want to discount that moisturizer, or let's say I want to sell 2 of them, and then I want to discount them by 10%. Done that. Once all of that is completed,
can you limit that functionality? So, for example, this gives any clerk that would be at the desk the availability to sell their friend's product at a big discount, for example. So, would we have the ability to limit the opportunities for discounting at point of sale?
Yes, not a problem at all.
And then some of that can also be driven, do I understand correctly, Ben, that some of that can also be driven by the guest type as well?
Correct, by the customer type.
Okay. And so just as a point of clarification too, Trace, as it relates to spa and retail in a combined environment, this would be new for us. I think it's a bigger conversation that we'll be having, of course. But today we actually have all of the, okay, still don't have my own office yet. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. The way that we're set up today is that our retail outlet is actually a separate profit center from our spa today. So there isn't any commingling, but it has presented, challenges as it relates to incentives and selling and being able to tie a spa service back to a product commission that will sometimes be factored differently if there was a service that corresponded with the product sale. So I do believe, Trace, or at least it's in my thought process, and I've talked to Kelly a little bit about it, that on the next go around, we will most likely have spa and its spa retail exist in the same profit center in You know what I mean, as far as being able to.
Yeah, it really needs to be one, because as it lives now, it wasn't set up that way, as I understand it, for good, solid business reasons. It was, it was set up that way because there were silos. So that's how I understood the sort of past decision to be. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so I think that now there's an understanding of the need to integrate those.
Absolutely. And it, really, in order to maximize our profitability and be able to more carefully construct our incentives and
right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree.
When I was there, I spent a bit of time in Yamo just kind of asking around and talking to retail and whatnot. And what I got out of that was I think you had some limitation with Visual One on how you could go about doing that. Was that?
No, it existed in our previous system. We were Rio before, as you know, Brian. And that's about the time when the decision was made to do that. There are ways to be able to kind of reference back to the spa service through the guest profile, so on and so forth, but it's not seamless, and it's a separate checkout experience for the guest and so on and so forth. So it was a conscious decision. It was not at all based on a system limitation in this case.
Okay. We don't have a problem. We can either do a combined or separate, whatever works.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we're agreeing that to combined makes more business sense for us at this point in the game. But obviously, as we get closer to a decision, we'll make some final decisions on that.
Sorry,
okay, so
yeah, sorry, I was on
mute.
But to your point of what you were actually just discussing, that so for example, I've got these 2 replenishing moisturizers here. I can come and select who might get the service charge for that. So if I'm going to give the revenue to Nicholas Bates, I can select him and so on and so forth. And then on your payroll reports, you have all that right there on one report.
Great. So can you move us to consumer facing?
Sure.
So it would look like from the client standpoint for retail.
Sure. And I just jumped over there right now so you can get an idea of it.
Okay.
And this now, keep in mind, this is just a basic template. It's all HTML and CSS, so it can be designed to look and feel like your website and almost unlimited potential in how you can configure it. So keep that in mind when we're going through it.
Yeah, this we borrowed from Ken Bar's End. If you were to go to their website, you would recognize this same color scheme, font scheme, whatnot. So this is just designed to fold into their website. We'd do something similar for you.
Okay. So in this case, you said you wanted to do retail, so you can see all the different sections that they have set up here for the website, but we could go into the signature shop. Well, in this case, they only have gift cards inside of there. Let me go to their spa. I think their spa has some retail in it. So I go to spa, then I can see the different categories in here. And one of them is Chatham Barzan signature spa products. So I can go to that. And then they've got a couple spa products in here, lines. So I can go to Ocean Mist signature line. And there's nothing set up there, Brian. There we go. We'll go to Cranberry Crush. And you can see here, here's a CBI Buttercream Cranberry Crush. And then you would have all of the different attributes. Unfortunately, we've just got a bunch of them set up here. It's 35, but each one of them would have a different name. So, think of it as a shirt. One of them might be extra large, small, large, that kind of thing as your different options. Okay. Select the item you want, add it to your basket, and then you can keep shopping or check out at that point.
Gift certificate. Oh, wait a minute. Local activities. There's one in there just for them.
This one?
Yep.
Local activities and attractions. There you go. You go to that. Now you can see the pink Jeep Broken Arrow tour there. And I could do a search for when that is available. So I could search for 11/7. Say I want to do an 11/8. Check availability. It returns me a list of the available dates and times. So on 11/8 at 10 a.m. is when I want to book. I can book selection. So I put that in my cart. So now I've got the Broken Arrow Adult Tour, and I've got the CBI Buttercream in there. And then again, I can add additional products, or I could go ahead and check out at that point.
Why don't you do a gift certificate?
Yep. I can do gift certificate sales. It's a very similar way. So I go to gift certificates. In this case, they've got some pre-set up prices, or I have an open dollar amount. In this case, we'll just select a $100 gift certificate.
They also have a number of packages in there too.
Kristen, how would this work with the current way that we are doing gift certificates, the current gift certificate system?
It would be a larger conversation, Trace, and I've expressed this to Brian as well, because if we ended up doing something like this enterprise style, it might be worth considering moving to something like this.
Okay.
But the way that we're currently set up is our gift cards across the board, the ones that, at least as it relates to Enchantment, are can be used property-wide, are tied to our credit card gateway with Shift4. So I would be hard-pressed to really want to have two different forms of that.
Well,
so we'd have to kind of look at...
We have an interface into Shift4 for the gift cards. So
yep.
what he's doing here would automatically upload the information for this gift card directly into Shift4, and it would be there registered as a active gift card certificate, PDF email.
Okay, Brian. So you would actually integrate into Shift4, whereas this process would be us selling a Shift4 gift card?
Yes. So what I'm here is how to do, like, if you hit delivery type, Ben.
Okay. Yep.
So if we do postal.
Yep. Postal. Yep.
Oh, it doesn't have the address lines. Right. Yeah. So all this information here, for example, Ben, who's going to, from, message, delivery type, all that would be kept in GEMtouch as part of our single guest itinerary relation, information. For Shift4, we would send up the number that's being invoked here. If it's a printed certificate, we would send up the barcode number that's next up in line. If it's a gift card, it would be the one that's swiped. And if it is a PDF, pretty much the same as a gift card, right? Same as a printed certificate. We would tell Shift4 what number is being activated, and that's all Shift4 is really looking for. Plus, who it was being activated to. But when you come back to the Guest Central area of our system, you'll see all this information there in detail, status of the certificate, whatnot. Works the same way in, say, your revenues, in, say, the spa as well, where they can choose to sell the user a gift card, yawn, or a nice embossed and printed linen certificate, pre-printed, or they could take a phone order for an email certificate to be sent out as well. And then in the background, we've got a console that lets you manage shipments and activations and that type of thing.
Yeah, so it may be somewhat duplicative, Brian, so we have to go through the mechanics of that. But, of course, our goal is, as I see it, Tracy, and can you help me to know that if I'm on the right track, but the idea of an enterprise-style solution that will be something that can be sold and redeemed across our portfolio.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Shift4.
Okay. And so that.
So we set up an enterprise account with Shift4, in which case we would basically point to that. Ben, if you back up a second and just show them gift cards one more time from the main level.
All right, 1 second. I'm sorry, you wanted to do gift cards from the main level?
Yeah, I mean, what Ben is doing is going through and adding the delivery address and that type of thing.
There you go.
I want to show you how we're merchandising right there, gift cards.
You want to go into the spa, that one?
Yeah, just do the one right there, the gift card one.
Okay.
Because the same certificates can show up in both. But if you scroll down, there's we've got we've merchandised a Ocean Bliss spa package. We've got a amenity for mom and dad to buy for the kids for their honeymoon when they're checking in, and pretty much any I think that's a service can also be a certificate at the same time. So I think there's a few more down there.
So how is this actually working in practice? Do you know if Challenge Bars Inn have had, you know, how many people actually use this?
We haven't turned it on for them. We're just doing the update to our Elven interface for them, where they could use this.
Okay, got it.
But
so you're showing it as a potential feature.
Yes, they plan to use this.
Okay.
They haven't finished. They use Shift 4. I mean Elevon. So we're just finishing up that interface. Once that's done, they'll be able to do this. All right.
Okay. And what he's talking about is the actual interface for Elevon. I mean, they can buy gift certificates just through our system, which is what we were kind of showing you now. That is live. It's just that the Elevon interface for it is what we're still working on.
Right. Sorry. Good point.
Yeah. And a lot of, you know, a lot of the spa softwares that I've looked at, you know, it is kind of twofold, you know, and even at the hotel software level, you know, where they will have kind of an integrated gift certificate or gift card program that's managed through the application as opposed to being kind of at the gateway like what we're doing. So whether we end up using this feature or not, and I do appreciate seeing how it can be leveraged in terms of having it represent the services for which the dollar value is loaded as opposed to just a straight dollar value. Like you said, could be one way of presenting to the guest. And whether or not we choose to pursue that or, you know, by what means, it's good to see that the functionality is present.
And what's really nice is with the interface, let's say it's Elevon or whoever it is, that the card's going to get a dollar amount value. But then when they try to ring it up in our system, it not only will it have that value, but then it could also have that tie to the specific item. Yeah, so you get the best of both worlds.
In reality, it's still just a dollar value as far as Shift 4 is concerned. It's more of a merchant. Why don't you go into the spa and show them how you sell certificate from there? But in reality, it's mostly a merchandising function as opposed to, it's still a dollar amount. You know?
Right.
So
at the end of the day, right? So we have some flexibility, and I think we get that. Do you agree, Trace? Do you need to see more of that?
Nope, I think I understand it perfectly.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Just to show you another. Well, I guess let me get you guys. You guys have done a great job, kind of driving us to what works best for you and what you want to see. Are there any other areas that you really would like to see right now, or had questions about?
Are there any other clients? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Are there any other clients that you have besides Challenge Bars Inn that we could see on their website the way that it is consumer facing?
No. Chatham was our pilot site, and we're just now starting. We just gone to market, and we'll be rolling out with Albert soon, with Raintree Resorts, all within the next 3 months or so.
Okay.
Probably the next 3 months. This is set up. What you just saw there was set up as a template. All of our guest-facing pieces are a template. Our presumption is that every resort's going to want something completely different, so they're. The guest-facing piece is designed to be flexible and changeable and malleable and whatever flexible word you want to put in there to fit into your site. So, like for example, I'm looking at your wine and water cooler. We could embed a button there that says, reserve the wine and water cooler event, and that would kind of take them into the one of the processes you just saw. Or we could create a kind of that grid that Ben was just showing you. You're going to drive the way you want it to look is what it comes down to.
Okay.
That piece is very much an agency kind of development piece, and we know that. Everybody's going to want something different.
I'm interested in seeing what the guest will see once they've booked some things. For example, what would be in print if they asked for that when they arrived, or what would it look like online that they would get a confirmation that it's been booked? What do they see?
Sure. Online, they would get an email that was be sent to them with their itinerary. That email is completely customizable. It's written in HTML, so all you have to do is provide us with how you want it to look and feel, and we can make it look and feel however you want. In terms of when they arrive on site, if they wanted to see it, so for example, here I'm in my guest area now, and I'll pull up Ashley, and I can go to the itinerary section, And all of this is actually, you're actually seeing version 1.0 of this. Version 2.0 will be out in the next couple of weeks, and we can give you a demo on that as well. And it enhances this much, much further. You can see the itinerary of just one guest, of them and all their related guests. You can break it down in a number of ways. But you can see right here, right now for Ashley, Ashley has a deep tissue massage at 9 a.m., a deep tissue massage at 1 p.m., a broken arrow tour at 10 a.m., and a private lesson with the director of tennis at 11 a.m. So you can see all of the different items.
And location? The location you're using as resource?
Well, the resource is the actual, so in this case, they're getting Jeep 1, they're getting Court 1. We can add and in fact, I think in the new version, it shows the revenue center or the business unit on here as well. It just on this particular screen right now, we don't have that option turned on.
And then, of course,
so you
know,
and this is primarily what the staff member sees, and
right.
As opposed to what the guest will see when it's printed out. That's really driven by you at the time of setup.
In some cases, you know, location and duration, one of the challenges we have today, which prevents us from adding the durations onto the itineraries or showing the location, is because sometimes the locations will change, and the durations, the way we have them set up today, have that 15-minute turn time for the rooms built into the appointments. So we actually end up, if we were to show the duration, it would look, a 60-minute service would look like a 75-minute service, and a 90 would look like 105. And we haven't used we didn't get any more creative than that to display it differently on the itineraries today. But I think that's your point, Ben, is that we have the ability to pick and choose from the fields that we would want to present. Okay.
Correct. And you can show the duration with or without turn time. You have all of those options in the system.
Okay.
And then once you do that, you can see right here on the screen, I can print the itinerary. I can email the itinerary. So if I want to go ahead and send off an email to them, I can do that. So I can do that right now.
Is there something you have kind of mocked up that you could send to us to demonstrate that?
Well, actually, I have something handy right now if you want to.
Yeah. I'll send this. I can forward it on.
Yeah, and I mean, again, with the understanding that it's completely customizable.
Right, and really right now, it's basically going to do that because we don't have a template set up in our demo system, really. It's just the basics, but you can just get the idea of what it's sending. And I'll just going to pull up my email really quick, and you can actually see it. So in this case, it's just a very generic mock-up, but you can insert this information into any kind of HTML template that you want.
Do you have the Ben? Do you have the XD mock-ups handy?
I cannot get into it anymore.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Let me grab that. I kind of went through a little bit of this.
Can you send a notification if there's any change on this? I heard you say a little bit about it, but if so again, there's a staff that calls out sick. They can get a notification that your therapist has changed or your time has changed, or please call the spa or something.
Yep. When you set up the spa providers themselves, there is an option right here, email resource booking modifications. So you can say yes or no, and if you say yes, then it will send an email every time.
And then, of course, obviously seeing that in practice. But I did also, on a previous demo, we did also look at the ease with which we can facilitate the replacement of a staff member if they call out sick, that kind of thing, and in terms of some of the basic spa functionality. Just as a side note on that, Carrie.
Yeah, and that's it. We've made that very easy. So let's say, for example, Big Nia calls out sick. I can just click on her name and then say move appointments to, and pick an off-duty resource. I could say Dara, and that will literally not only unschedule this one, but it will move all the reservations and schedule Dara right there and on the fly just by clicking that option. So I could make that very easy process.
And then, of course, we did have a question about, like, if there are any that had a specific request. And we don't need to get into that level of detail on this one. I'd rather reserve that for our spa operations staff as far as making the best use of our time. But, as far as if there is a specific request for a therapist, that might change the dynamic of the notification to the guest.
Right.
If there's somebody that calls in, and those kinds of business rules.
Right.
And
we went through a little bit of that earlier, where you could say Alessandro's requested, and then exactly just what you said. It'll apply it differently based on the business rules.
I'm going to pull back the screen share for a moment. I went through a little of this when we met last week, but I'll just kind of do a quick refresher through our new GEM Essential area. Are you seeing my screen? Oh,
Yes.
I was
Yes, we are.
the XD version of this, but I can't get through it either, Ben. We got to look into that. But this is coming from some screenshots of my presentation. So what we're looking at here is a view of, we did a search, and this is the search result. I'm sorry, this is the link guest version. Here's a search result. We searched for two guests, Cunningham and Taylor. They came back, and it showed the Cunningham family and the Taylor family. And we selected Brian and Taylor to represent the company or the families, and now we're working with them as part of our booking process. So quickly, I can see that Brian has a room reservation and some activities. Ben's got a room reservation and some activities. Here are the people and the specific that are involved. Next up, I'm going quickly just because we kind of did this a little bit, but if you have questions, please stop me. Here's a view of our linked guest view, so I can see in more detail who is linked together. Here's Brian. He is the primary in this group. Secondaries in this group are Lisa and Melissa. Within Ben's group, Ashley and Riley are secondaries to his primary. With these, we can check and take whichever ones we check, we can then take them over to the scheduler or the call center, or create a new point of sale check, or link them together. Maybe we have two duplicates, Brian twice, click, and then we can do a merge. Then we get into the actual guest itinerary area. So here's some labels on top of this. You saw a minute ago where we were displaying, the two selected guests. It could be multiple ones like Ben showed you in a demo. Right now, rooms and activities are turned off, so you're seeing just the names. When we look over on this side here, we can see that we can search for date range, or we can search for within a certain stay, turn on looking for experiences, turn on looking for stay information, turn on linked guest. I can click link guest, and those linked ones would disappear and show only primary. And then if there's group information, can turn that on off as well, so that we can see group, not just family members. And then last, I'll group them together by a room reservation first, then guest, or by guest first and then room reservation or date. This is a room reservation here. The gray ones are activity reservations. So what you're seeing here is a one screen that's got room reservations and activities for two families. And I can, at this point, either print it from this view that we've selected or email it. This one, I think, Krishna, I don't know if you've seen this one yet or not, but this is the transactional area where we can say, okay, for Ryan and Ben, let's see open checks and closed checks together. And so that's what it's showing me here. So I can see the check for boating and then the details within it. There's a little twisty thing here. And this shows up pretty much in the same way that property management systems display it on the folio. And then we got a couple other checks here. We got another boating check, another boating check. And by the way, since we've got gift certificates turned on, down here I can see a listing of outstanding gift certificates for this, both outstanding and redeemed for this guy. So it makes it really easy to go find those and see what the status is. So this one, it was originally $100. They redeemed $32 of it. We can keep partials. And redeemed $1,200. Not quite right. So that's kind of the transactional view of things. Here's guest.
Yeah, I was just hearkening back to the front desk view in Rio, in the sense that that was a good consolidated place for seeing the status of the appointments and the checked in, checked out, that kind of thing.
Yep. That's probably the last place you saw it done fairly well. Yeah, all right. So any questions on the transaction piece? I didn't point out here, you can see only those transactions that were done on retail or web concluded. In this case, both are turned on. If it was web was not included, it would look gray like this one. Guest messaging, both messages from the property management system and messages from our side combined. You can again display only our reservation messages or PMS reservations or guest-related, profile-related reservations as well. So if we turned off guest, it would be just those that are related to specific services, either room reservations or activity reservations. And I think...
and I'm kind of seeing in some cases within your presentation, Brian, some of the names on the buttons are a little bit cut off, that kind of thing. Is that just a display type of thing?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm assuming this is responsive, right?
Yes.
Relative to, okay.
His display is just mock-ups. We take these
Okay.
are just giving us the idea for development of how to do it, and then of course, yes, it's fully responsive.
Yeah, that's why
Okay,
I couldn't put up the new stuff. So that's why I said I'm only presenting the presentation side of it.
The actual.
Yeah.
Got it. And up top where it says new Gem Central, is that central? Is that I think there's an R missing in the central. And
Brian and his
I hope you're okay with me pointing these things out.
I'm very okay with it. I like it when people point out that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I like the idea of having that centralized view.
Well, this whole area that we've seen here replaces the part Ben was showing you, where we've got the basic, one screen where we've got the guest activities and that type of thing. This is a greatly enhanced guest management piece we did to accommodate the whole HTMG set of functionality. And this is available with integrations to, right now, Opera and Infor HMS. I know we're talking about doing some of the same pieces with Visual One. So yeah, those are the key pieces that need to be talked about. Also, in the HTMG interface capabilities are us pushing our interfaces up to the PMS activity manager area.
Exactly, and that's really where I see the value in terms of keeping it all together and having that single understanding of the guest, which is our obvious goal here. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on really quickly, and I may have to scoot here in a minute. I have a vendor on site. They got here a little early, so I was able to steal away, but I do need to check on them. The one other thing I want to just touch on briefly while we have Tracy and Carrie's ear relates to, we started talking conceptually about the idea of the self-serve with the guests and how that will be presented. And presentation, obviously, in great part is determined by our branding efforts, obviously. But the other thing I thought was really quite novel in our industry focuses around the ability to make this available somewhere in the room booking process. And I know that you said you talked to Synexus or had been talking about integrating at that point. I know there's quite a few logistics involved with that. But we were pretty excited about the idea of being able to do kind of a shopping cart style experience for the guest.
Yeah, what we're talking about
regard.
with them, and this falls in the category of vaporware, but where the conversations are. More concrete when we're talking about with HMS, Infor, because we do have very specific plans there. And they'll kind of all work the same way, but what we're looking at doing with say Nexus is they would book it, and either we would do an interface and they have them available to immediately capture that information that was just booked, or they would book it in Synexus, it would immediately flow into your PMS and we grab it from there. Or there's some other spoken or magic that we can do by just having a reference link they send over to us. At that point, you would come here and a view similar to what you would see. Oops. Back up a second. This view over here, okay, would, sorry. Where'd it go? Did I close it out? I guess I did. Well, I can fix that. What's that? So what we'll have is this view similar to this over here on the left-hand side. So the guest would hit a hot link off of Synexus from your web booking engine. And this is the preliminary, kind of the low-hanging fruit way of doing this, not the way we would like to do it. That will come later, and this is what we're developing with Infor, where you've got one web booking engine that is seamless back and forth between rooms or activities, the room, start with the room, jump to activities, jump back to room, that whole activity/room agnostic web booking engine. But with Synexus, we would land with that here, and we would be aware of what the arrival date, the departure date would be. That would be displaying based on what they sent over here, and from here the guest could go ahead and start exploring off and, you know, coming in, and let's go ahead and book a, you know, a pink Jeep or whatever else you got going on.
And it was displaying the dates of their stay too, which helped them to kind of work within the parameters of their visit. Okay.
What we don't have in the
Perfect.
demo.
That's important.
They would have this, like I said, this information over here on the left-hand side of here.
And I was just kind of thinking if we are in, not necessarily on the ground floor of that, but potentially, you know, we may have some input if we were to talk about proceeding, you know.
Absolutely.
But it does seem like you've got the right concept or the right idea. It did present to me that way anyway.
We will be presenting it like that with both Opera and we'll be doing that for Chatham Bars in very shortly, as soon as the whole HGG Syllabus itinerary piece is fully certified. At that point, we're going to be doing that just as part of their setup and provisioning, so you'll be able to see it soon.
Oh, great. Okay.
How's it going? All right, so that's kind of what I was trying to get you through. I bet you're looking at these pictures and going, yeah, it's not how I'd want to do it. And that's fine. Again, it's everybody, as part of your setup, would be up to you and how you would go about doing it.
And even within the widget there, we'd have the opportunity to skin that in a way that would be more consistent with our brand too, right? Everything.
Yeah, so again, if we go over here and look at, say, let's see, Spa Fitness. So if we were to come over here and look and show you, okay, here's their site, Chatham site, and you look in, say, this area, you can see where the coloring and the theming all starts to come together. These are the same fonts. I forget what the Google version of it is, but coloring, layout, the whole. So hopefully you could see how what's over here would cleanly fold into what's over here.
So
and
I'm sorry, Kristen. What I noticed right away on that page was that on the Chatham's Bar site, they're nicely sized and not rounded corners and all those things. And what I noticed on this page is that they're not sized well. On the main page that you have, they're not sized well. There are rounded corners. So for me, the actual duplicate or replication of the brand, and you know, I'm the CMO here, not for Chatham Bars, so it's up to them what they see and what they don't see. But what I see is that the replication of the brand isn't done
completely
correctly. Yeah.
It's this is still a work in progress, but we're really just following their direction. So if she says to get rid of the rounded corners, the rounded corners will go away.
Right. Okay. And what about the size, like, of all of the photos and everything? You know, because they look haphazard the way that they're blobbing together.
Yeah. Again, that's all just part of, you know, a formatable template. You know,
Okay.
this is kind of a first run through it. You know, typically we're an installation where we're doing we're including probably 3 to 5 days of agency time. We actually can give your agency access into the style sheets. They have access to uploading the files. That is very much a creative process that we know we have to adapt to and follow. So, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And is that more your tendency, Brian? Because I, from day one, was thinking that I think we did talk about whether or not that would be a service that you would provide or that you would work with the agency, just finding that sweet spot, right? That the balance between the work that they do and the work that you guys do. How do you see that happening just for your client base? Is it just going to be based on, I guess, the strength of the agency and branding that your different customers do? Or
Yes.
I mean, so in our case, Trace, would you think that our agency would be more specifically involved in that look and feel, where they would have access to more so almost like an API of sorts, or we call them booking widgets, if you will, Brian? Will they be presented in that fashion, such that the agency would be able to really dictate all of those elements, placement, look and feel?
Probably the best way to think of our guest-facing views is similar to your current content management system. It's all. What content management system do you use here? Is it one of the larger, more? Is this like WordPress or what is this?
Oh, what are we?
Oh, that platform it's not Drupal, right? Is it Drupal?
Let me see if I can figure it out.
Oh, what's it actually called, though? There's I think it is.
And this actual site that you're on is a specialty site. All of our other sites are on a different platform than this.
Interactive sites. It looks like a
yeah. That's our agency, Interactive Sites.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they supply the content management tool. I apologize. I'm not sure exactly what branded tool that they're using.
It almost doesn't really matter. So if you look at the configuration here, I can see that there have a number of different style sheets. Here's a compiled one for Bootstrap. What we could do is give them, if you want us to do it, that's fine. If you want them to do it, we're open to giving them the keys to the style sheets and configuration and templates. It kind of depends on what works best for you.
Yeah, and the challenge, not the challenge, but the overlap becomes in the pricing, right? Because you pay for agency time, which is my actual advertising agency that's in control of the brand. Mm-hmm. So we pay for their time, this would be an extra setup. Then you pay for the web designer's time, which is the iSites. And then we're paying for your time as setup. So it can get very expensive, the layering. We are working right now on a rebranding of the back end of our membership system. And, I can tell you that it is pretty costly to get that done. And it's a login system. And also, we just got done rebranding our Seven Canyons site, and we had to do a couple of things there that, again, because of the layering of the agencies, it can become a pretty pricey endeavor.
Yeah. So the agency work here you could choose to pay them or you could choose to pay us. We wouldn't double charge it if that's kind of what you're doing.
Got it.
Honestly, I would bet that in some parts of this, your agency would be better than us. And I'm not ashamed to say that. It's just that, separate talent skills.
Yeah.
So what could happen here is we would give them access to the style sheets. There are a number of, if you look down here, there's going to be a template for section page. So we would give them access to these various templates that they could work with. If they're a good agency, they should be very comfortable working in this type of document. The same thing for, so the content management piece of it is here. So here we're setting up a section. We're setting up the title for this section, the short description, content that goes in over, here in various areas. So if I go in somewhere in here, I'm going to see a description. So these descriptions that you see here are actually found, where do I go? There are too many things going on. Over here, your agencies can insert the various tracking scripts they want to put in here, the various images. So this is our content management piece in terms of managing the template. That can be up to us or it can be up to them. We have no pride in doing this part ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Actually, it'd probably take longer for us to do it than them. They've probably got a lot of this already in the can.
Sure, sure. Carrie, do you have any other questions, or do you feel comfortable for the moment until we have more in-depth discussions internally about direction?
I feel comfy.
Sweet.
Great.
Okay.
I'm comfortable.
Excellent. Excellent.
Suddenly
Thanks,
the
everybody.
idea to have GEMtouch swag with slippers, comfy slippers for. Anyway, never mind. Things.
That's a creative brain just going out in left field.
Yeah, I was trying to get there with you, Brian. I wasn't quite there.
Well, we're working on trade show swag, and I was, they just. Never mind.
Just popped in your head.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much, Brian, Ben. Appreciate your time both last week and today. And we'll catch up internally and have our discussions on what we need for future. And I'm sure that Miss Kristen will be back in touch.
Nice. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
You
you.
have our email
Thank
addresses?
you.
You have our email
Bye,
addresses?
guys.
Feel free to call. Bye.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye now.